A man from animal control walked into my kindergarten class. At 5, I was already familiar with the guest lecturer. The week before, a tick expert had come in to regale us with the mysterious brain-eating horrors of Lyme disease. Standing in his gray jumpsuit, Bernard from Animal Control listed the symptoms of rabies. Your average small mammal infected with rabies will exhibit violence like biting, foaming at the mouth, and confusion. You mean like a doggy would try to slide up the slide instead of sliding down it? Some kid asked. Bernard had no response. It's unclear whether he was selected to give this presentation because he was particularly good with kids, or if he was just trying to get out of roadkill duty that morning. Bernard was grossly underprepared compared to Tick Man, who'd brought with him a variety of bugs preserved in plastic amber. He explained clearly which ticks carried Lyme and which didn't. He said, "With ticks, bigger is better." When the students in my class pressed Bernard for clarity about which animals we should watch out for, he said plainly, "If a wild animal lets you get too close to it, then it probably has rabies." This seemed to catch people's attention, as did his closing remarks. And so, when the signs of rabies are evident in a human, the best thing you could hope for is a real quick death. I imagined were I infected with rabies, I might murder my little brother using his own plastic ninja sword and then climb to the roof of my house where I would dive headfirst into the central air conditioning unit. I wondered what Jesus would have to say about all of this. My next-door neighbor was also my best friend. Our backyards bled into one another. Her backyard was expansive, extremely tall trees, a variety of shrubbery, and even the occasional Virgin Mary statue. My backyard was straightforward: grass, swing set, and a little garden along the back fence. As she and I exited her family's giant silver van on the way home from school that day, she leaned over to me and said, "Hey, Danielle, see that squirrel over there? I think it has rabies." And as the person with more experience in suburban wilderness, I believed her. And it proved to be the case when I was training to be in the circus on my backyard swing set. I had just successfully backflipped off the trapeze when I decided it was time for a snack. All I had to do was climb the back steps and go through the back door, and I'd be in the kitchen where I knew a supply of handy snacks, cheese, and crackers were waiting for me. The only thing that stood in my way was a squirrel. His black eyes fixed on me as he galloped closer. His tail twitched in a menacing way. He made a noise. I darted left and right like a professional hockey player, but every which way I went, it followed. I picked up an acorn and threw it across the yard, hoping to distract it like a dog playing fetch, and ran like hell for the security of my house. I made it, but the squirrel remained perched on top of the recycling bins, watching me through the kitchen window. My fear of rabid squirrels was amplified by my mom's fascination with ceramic squirrel figurines. Every holiday, my father would get her a new one at the nearby Lenox warehouse, and it would come to grace some new nook in our home. Merry Christmas, squirrel. Happy Easter, squirrel. Happy anniversary, squirrel, squirrel, squirrel. For years, every squirrel I saw had rabies. Any minute now, their mouths were going to start foaming. They haunted my dreams at sleepovers. Once, while sleeping on a trundle bed that folded out near an open door, my pillow slipped off the bed in the middle of the night, and I woke my friend's whole family screaming, "Squirrel took my pillow!" At home, I raced into my parents' bedroom in the middle of the night, mid-nightmare, saying, "There's a squirrel on my face! There's a squirrel on my face!" But young adulthood brought new fears like the SAT, making left-hand turns while driving, and unplanned pregnancies. Somehow squirrels managed to slip my mind, but my friends and family also forgot about my fear of squirrels and replaced it with this sort of vague association of me with squirrels. So when I went off to college and eventually Washington, D.C., they would send them to me. Squirrels, stuffed animals, figurines, and poems with notes that said things like, "Thinking of you." I slowly started to accept squirrels as DC forced me to accept its oversized rats, because squirrels are really just rats with bushy tails of deception. At the sight of a squirrel, I still prefer to cross to the other side of the street, but don't always, especially if there are other people who are around and they might take notice of my prejudice. One day, I was walking near the Senate side of the Capitol. I had just attended some progressive think tank's Capitol Hill briefing, and I had a bag of chips left over from my corner bakery box lunch. On my way to Union Station, I was just digging into my salt and pepper flavored kettle chips when this giant squirrel came over and incited a stare down. I saw the signs, potential violence, and certainly confusion, as I've always hated it when squirrels looked at me. This squirrel was going to kill me. I had let my guard down, and now there was nothing I could do, so I sat down on a nearby park bench. I removed my left hand from the bag of chips and extended my right arm and hand, which still gripped tightly to the bag. This squirrel, he looked at me with his pointy nose and leaned forward. He then proceeded to eat all of my chips. I let go of the bag and, frankly, quite easily escaped death, but I knew that it wouldn't be long before another one of these greedy, disgusting animals crossed my path.